them, right?
Yeah, tend to be a little bit of a maxi towards it. Maybe a little bit more because I do love the idea of how immersive it could be, right? And I've always been, I was always like the kid playing the SSR D&D games and playing, Baldur's Gate and Eye of the
Mm.
Beholder and Divinity and Original Sin 2. Like I'm a big like RPC role playing story guy, individual, and so the idea that stories could be more immersive is very fascinating to me. Anyways, so
It is. And this is like this is a part of a much bigger discussion, right?
right,
Uh, about the role of human beings and machines in gaming. Because, yes, as you are saying, those games, Baldur's Gates, etc., they are incredible games. But
right,
they are also incredible because there is a writer on the other side of the wall writing all those scenarios, all those variables. And then now we are talking about introducing AI technology, which will create like NPCs and etc. But can it reach the same level of quality of something like Baldur's Gate through AI? This is one of the questions that I want us to think about today. Uh, if we want, how we want to interact with technology, what should be the limits, if any, and what kinds of things should Star Atlas do to leverage the most of AI while keeping the game interesting? And one of the very clear use cases for us is NPCs, right? We have been talking about having AI NPC characters in Star Atlas universe for a long while now. And at this point, it is really close of becoming a reality at all. I mean, we have the agents technology, we have the blockchain technology, we have the wallets, and honestly, it is a matter of time, maybe even as close as the next chapter of Holocene, for us to have the technical background that would allows us to have NPC factions led by AIs in our universe. But the thing is, if we have like 50 different AI factions, and suddenly one of those AI factions start destroying a portion of our player base, I can only imagine how this is going to feel for everyone involved. Will you guys find it amusing? Will you guys get mad? And especially when money's on the line. Because in Holocene, it's all fun and games. I mean, not necessarily because there were lots of drama in the last chapters of Holocene, but how would this play in C4? Like, this is what I wanted to get everyone's initial thoughts on here. Jim, I'll also let you voice your opinions on the general topic of AI NPCs, and we can move from there.
yeah. I should be fully. Yeah. Well, and that I mean that is one of the big things about Holosim is being in a an environment to fully kind of try to flush out these new gameplay mechanics. I mean, so. Yeah, it's a bigger, I mean, it's a bigger societal question in a sense, right? I don't know for those who are developers and using generative AI to, to try to make the development process more efficient. Um, there was a gentleman who is one of the maintainers of a major Python math library, right? An OpenClaw agent tried to put a PR into that, tried to get some code in there, and they have a policy to auto reject any just completely 100% agentic submission. There has to be a human in the loop, and there was no human in the loop, and they rejected it. And so then it went out and it like wrote a whole hit piece blog post, and then posted the blog post in the link saying that he was being prejudiced against AI. And I don't know if any of you have seen that, but it's kind of beginning to get a little bit weird out there. Um, your one question, ultimately, the first question that I would love to address is this idea, that like something like Baldur's Gate or Icewind Dale or any of those first really old guys, Dungeon Master, people that were playing kind of those Bard's Tale 2. I'm really dating myself in some of these older games. Um, that have a story driven narrative. You're absolutely right. There's a writer or a team of writers, Mass Effect being another one, right? There's a team of writers, and those writers are ultimately playing, make a huge point of making the game better. I would argue though that games are a different entertainment form than stories. That a book is a story for a writer. A game is actually to me, the biggest form of entertainment in a game is choices, right? So it's this concept about passive versus active entertainment, right? Or another way, it's like the 10 foot, right? In a game, you're not 10 feet away, like watching TV, watching a story unfold on you. You're in it, you're leaning in, you're making choices. And one of the things that I think AI agents, AI NPCs allow is it allows for just an enormous amount of choice. And ultimately, most people would say the more choices you give players, the more engaging the game is for a player, right? And so I think that's where I lean more towards the idea that AI agencies and AI NPCs and AI uh, just allowing for more choices and more immersion, I think will ultimately be a better experience. So um, than necessarily thinking that it needs to be a team of writers, right? And anyways, I've said a lot there. I want to give you and give people a chance to respond without just
Yeah,
mm,
guys,
rambling
keep
on. So
yeah,
yeah,
no worries. Keep that questions and comments coming in the chat because we'll go visit what you guys think
right.
very soon. But one thing that I was thinking about here, Jim, like for example, we create a Jarvik faction, an AI Jarvik faction, and this faction starts wreaking havoc across the galaxy. Uh, Players start engaging with it, but for example, this is a constraint that we have right now. But what if the AI hallucinates and starts dumping chips in the market, for example, from their wallets? Something like this. Is this a real threat? How do you feel about this? Like, how can we control AIs if they start going, let's say, off the script of
Like they start
yeah,
posting hit pieces on people that tell them they
exactly,
can't, they won't take
exactly,
their code.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I do think, I mean, so for example, yeah, and that's where I mean, ultimately, there's still this idea of us as the game creators and the game community, really focusing on intent, right? And that's ultimately where AI systems right now um, don't do they're great at generating images, but in the end, like it's still a human being that's saying, "Hey, generate this image. Here's the intent. This is what I want." And now it's the one creating it versus somebody like going into Illustrator or getting out their paintbrush and actually painting it from the beginning, but it's still a human kind of giving an intent. And so, I think there's going to have to be a lot of programming and a lot of intent to around that exact same thing. We don't want an AI agent, like you said, that somebody could prompt inject or convince it to dump all of its stuff for absolutely dirt cheap on the marketplace, and then and it's another attack vector in a sense like that, right? And so absolutely, and that's again one of the reasons we have HoloSim, right? So let's build let's build these kind of AI NPC agents in HoloSim first, where there isn't as much economic impact, and really get them to to fulfill the intent that we want really well, which is a really good like for example, if it's a market bot trading, or really good market bot trading that makes the marketplace highly efficient, right? So um
Hmm.
it's going to be, and that housing could be kind of those proving grounds. So I'm sorry, it's so hard to focus when I'm trying to read what people are posting here too. So
Don't worry, don't
um
worry. You can
yeah,
focus. I'll let you know um
please,
when
yeah,
community make the comments, and then we go and
right,
discuss them.
right,
So,
yeah.
but something that like occurred to me, something that we were actually discussing before, in this sense of how agents will come to the Stratas universe, they will make the Stratas economy feel more alive. You'll see more people in every sector. It will provide, for example, opportunities for PvE elements, etc., etc. But John, ev- is our audio uh, good, guys? Because I see John saying that he is hearing robot voices. It's good. Okay.
I'm hearing you good. Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing you good. I don't know if people are hearing me or not.
Okay. So, as I was saying about the crew members, should, for example, every crew member in Star Atlas be an agent? And this is what we were discussing right before we jumped here in the brew. I mean, would bring absurd levels of immersion and overall experience for Star Atlas. But would that take away some of the human element of the game as well? Like if you can create your crew with only AIs, and the AIs are behaving like pretty much as humans, and maybe the next step is you join a deck only formed by AIs, and at the end of the day, it's you and the AIs against the universe.
Well, I mean, yeah, kind of some things we talked about that. I mean, I think it's interesting. I think right now, just to be very realistic, that's it's cost prohibitive for that. Simply that the cost of running an LLM, and if again, if I don't know all the numbers, but let's say each ship, average 5 to 25 crew members, and each fleet had 100 ships in it. I mean, it's just an amazing number of LLM requests and processing that would have to happen, and that has a cost, that has a compute cost, right? um and then the other kind of problem, in a sense, as awesome as that concept would be, um the other problem is that to reduce the cost, we have to get less and less powerful models running closer and closer to the edge with less and less information. And I don't necessarily want to play a game filled with a million 6-year-olds, right? You're right, like that these that we're doing a cheaper LLM that has less predictability power, and it and less context, and it ultimately has the effective intelligence of a 6-year-old, right? um and I think that's where and it also kind of is what, all right, I got to see this. Ultima is already building. uh Time develop, yeah, Sage GTP, right? Train our own edge model. We do it all, man. We can do it all. Have an agent, build the agent to build the agent. Agents all the way down. So there's a cost prohibitive to this. There's an intelligence prohibitiveness, and then we've also got to kind of understand the game, right? Again, so and I think this is kind of perhaps a bit to be self-critical, a bit of a struggle of Star Atlas in terms of trying to rebuild the world is not necessarily making a game, right? That sometimes games are actually helped by somewhat of focus, right? And so, is C4 or is Holosim a crew management game, or is it an empire management game? Right? Is it a fleet management game? Right? And so at what level do we have to go down? And how do we build that smartly so that especially a new player who's just getting into the ship and trying to manage the fleets and be part of a bigger faction that's fighting for control of the Holosim universe, is it too much detail for them to have to go in and assign crew members and handle, and they have to be kind of in that minute detail versus just getting right into the combat of the ships or right into the yeah, exactly. So Sims versus fleet manager. So like, again, to put it in, it's a great point. Are we building Sims or are we building Stellaris in a sense, right?
Mm.
And trying to do all of them at once may be maybe too much, right? And yeah, I feel the same way, Funcracker. And so I think there's a certain point in which we have to start with NPCs at where do they make where does AI make our game more interesting right now, and then how do we
Yeah,
add that
very.
down the layer? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, and
yeah.
this is a great question for the chat here. Where do you guys see AI providing true value for Star Atlas, especially to the kind of game that you want Star Atlas to be? And while the people comment on this, I want to bring your attention here, Jim, to this video that Brujo posted that Tutti created using AI. It is insane. It's the highest quality video I have seen so far using AI to create on Star Atlas assets. It is insane. And I myself have been playing around with AI to create videos for Star Atlas, to create art, to organize, for example, my lore. This is something that I will discuss tomorrow. AI is helping me clean a lot of debt that I had in the lore front, like creating the lore wiki and things like that. With AI now, I am able by myself to do those things. And it is surely an extraordinary tool that will help us. I see Tendian uh, providing a comment saying that AI should generate PvE quests. So, for example, do you guys see faction leaders, at least faction leaders, and faction captains, etc., in game being AI agents that would create quests for the players in game? This is something that you guys would like to see happening in Star Atlas. VB is saying, I would start with a personal AI for each account, learning and helping them with the players.
Yeah, and I think what VB is saying, that's ultimately what kind of the Sage AI assistant it was originally built to be. Is this ability to be more of an assistant that you can help and you can actually talk to it, like I said, in your own language and learn more. So I think that's one of the first steps. I do think that quest givers, I mean, if anybody's watched some of the YouTube satire of games, of especially MMO games, right, the quest givers is kind of like the butt of the joke, right? It's always the same quest, and it can get into all these weird states. And so I do think that quest giving in terms of NPCs, and at least interacting with them, and being it more in terms of like interacting with the dungeon master, who's when he's talking with a and when you're as the player is talking with dungeon masters, he's pretending to be an NPC character. I would love to see that. for
Hmm.
sure. I would love to see that for sure. And the interesting thing too about, and this is where there's going to kind of have to be a blend of deterministic code and non-deterministic AI systems. In the end, we don't want, like I said, a quest giver hallucinating and giving a quest that is not possible in any way, right? Um, so um, y-
Imagine
so
an
yeah.
Ulster NPC saying, "Kill all the muds."
Right, exactly. Go kill all the muds or go whatever. So I think there's again there's this kind of how we can approach it and build it. But again, it does allow us to do things that we couldn't have done in the past, right? And if you think about an MMO, and how much the cost of production of quests were, right? Is having to produce, programmers and artists and dialogue writers having to produce these quests and get them out as expansion packs, right? That cost, well, that becomes the gatekeeper into how many quests there are. If we can reduce that cost through using LLM and using it and also make them more engaging, then there becomes, a million more quests. Now there's a million more fun hours in the Star Atlas game. And again, I'm going to kind of always be preaching that ultimately the value of the Star Atlas ecosystem is its entertainment value. Um, and so, by us producing thousands of hours of entertainment, we become a more valuable entertainment ecosystem. So
Mhm. Absolutely. And
right.
something that just occurred to me, Jim. You really like poker, right? You
Right.
always tell us that you have been here losing money for poker for a little while now. Nah, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Yeah,
But
I do like poker.
and how do you feel about, for example, let's say we have a poker game or poker-like game inside Star Atlas, and players will be able to play with Atlas in game. This game, would you feel comfortable playing against AI agents or other players using AI in this
Sure.
scenario, for example?
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, AI and botting is a huge topic in especially the online poker community, right? And I think it's a great analogy to kind of think about it in terms of how. And so, um, I think the dirty little secret in the online poker community is there are tons of bots, and they actually are needed, because the only thing then worse than playing against bots is going to a table and having nobody to play against, right? Then there's no poker game at all, right? And so when if bots are there playing, as long as they're playing with the same incomplete information I am, I'm actually okay with it. Yes, they never get tired. Yes, they'll never do the math incorrectly, but it's still the same incomplete information. They don't know what I'm holding. I don't know what they're holding. They're still calculating odds and calculating their combinatrix, or they're using their GTO charts and doing their simulation of GTO. Yes, they're probably slightly better at the math than I am at it, but it's still a game of incomplete information. Where I begin to disagree with bots is when they're using collusion on the same table. So the same, and I would have the same problem if it was humans doing this, right? If it was five buddies all playing and they're on Discord on the side saying, "Oh, I'm on this table and I've got, this hand and you've got this hand and you've got this hand," and then they know they've got more information than me. If bots are doing that, then I think it's bad, right? I think that's where it becomes, and that's where I've kind of stepped away from a lot of online poker as I've become more and more. It's become more and more news that there are these syndicates running rings that are not just playing individual, but they're trying to get as many of those bots on the table, get as much information as possible, and basically stack it against players. Um, so I think that in our world, in our game, as long as the bots are playing with the same level of information um, that we are, and that is one of the things we've got to think about in terms of bots, is that human beings can only communicate at the speed of the spoken or typed word, right? Whereas bots
Mhm.
themselves can type and at speeds, they can send data to each other at computer speeds, right? So that is something that's really interesting. I hadn't even thought about it until we started talking about this. Is this idea of, how much do we allow agents to coordinate? Because then they could become, like you said, in that Jarvik example, that if there was AI agents running the Jarvik army, they may be able to communicate at such a faster rate that they may be able to organize and collaborate faster than we could. Um, and ultimately Skynet the whole game, right? So, um, yeah. So that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it until then. Yeah, I could definitely think faster than my mouth can filter. That's for dang sure. I say all kinds of stupid stuff. So, um, yeah, that's a great point. So that is one thing. But again, again, not to ramble too much, I do think there's a place for bots and for agents, and I do think. Anyways, keep going. I can ramble on. So,
No, 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 no.
right,
This is an interesting conversation. And I think another face of this is the markets of Star Atlas, right? Um, AIs can be a lot more efficient to fill the market, and we already have a problem with the bots. Or, I mean, some people perceive it as a problem, other people don't see the bots as a problem. How do you how do you guys feel? And this is also a question for the audience about AI agents being able to participate directly in the market.
yeah, I'm giving some people some time to answer. I mean, one thing I will say is that I think because of the open nature of the blockchain, we're never going to be able to stop it, right? Um, you ultimately, people can see the orders happen on the blockchain and they can decide to fulfill them or not, right? And they can place their orders, and so ultimately it will be people writing bots. Um, it, and it's also interesting too that, but we're not going to be able to stop them. It would be interesting to see what the community thinks. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
so
But for example, one thing is us allowing players to set up bots and do stuff like that. Another thing is us creating a AI agent that controls the whole treasury of the Woosters.
right.
And they want to market make the market. So in order to make the Woosters richer overall as a faction. So they will do whatever it takes to advance their factions because this is their role in the game as the leader of the faction. And you know, people will probably get burned in the way of the Wooster agent moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great concept. My first gut is to say thumbs up because it's just more gameplay now, right? So now it's like there's now that as a different faction or as a member of Ooster, you know that yeah your faction is trying to do this. There's an AI agent trying to do something for you can either help or hinder it, right? It just to me that creates more gameplay. Um, and and to me it would be really interesting. I would love to see kind of this almost pseudo user generated content world inside of Star Atlas where it's not necessarily Star Atlas that creates that AI system, but potentially the community gets involved and so it creates some of those AI systems
Mhm.
and and then uses the DAO to get those in place, right? Uh and members of the DAO that we've talked about how do we get governance in this, right? And we were talking about I think that's one place that AI agents could be could be effective in the day-to-day operation of governance when players don't want to be on 24 hours, right? People have lives and families and they want to play this game when it suits them and having AI agents that are continuing to manage and push the world forward, even when you're not there, is just to me that's a lot of fun. There's a lot of really fun opportunities in that, in my opinion.
I see people. Jesus.
Oh yeah. Um,
People are. I asked them in the chat, Jim, if they would join an AI agent guild. Like their guild master is an AI agent. They have AI leadership, and I think most of them didn't like the idea.
Yeah, and I think that that gets to the balance that I personally kind of am hoping for us to see. I would love that all of the guilds were again human community led, but they have an AI helping them with the orchestration and the communication and all of the kind of how do we help offset that grunt work so that the guild members can really focus on the intent of the guild, which is collaboration and community and friendships, right? And everybody who's ever led a guild or led anything like that, I mean, it's just how much just administrative overhead do you have to do to get everybody on the same page and get um and again, that's where an AI agent could step in and help. But yeah, I don't necessarily think that you know that an AI actually running the guild itself would be any. I mean, where's the community in that, right? In my opinion. So
Mhm.
I don't really
Jim,
want God to be my friend. You can't.
Neil, Neil from the Brazilian community just pitched something crazy. He
Okay.
said, one idea that could be interesting is for factional AI guidelines to be influenced by PvP holders. For example, if the majority of the Ustus holders vote or believe it's beneficial to guide AI towards a more belligerent or commercial approach, the guidelines given them by the holders would then guide the AI's actions. So he's trying to establish for the first time in history a government that would listen to its people. Can you believe this? How do you feel about that?
I think it's great. That's exactly yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's I think that's a great idea. That would be and my mind is like going, and so there's so much stuff we could do with AI possibly, right? And the dream versus the actual reality too. As somebody who is like using AI to develop software systems, like I'm not kidding when I say I have Cursor with Claude Code and Codex, and I've got another version over here, and I've got Augment, and I'm like, I've got all these AI agents working to write code and build these systems. There's also kind of the cost to actually like where we actually live and like where it is right now, right? And but let's see where we are in a year as well too. But yeah, no, I think that would be great to have to have these agents. I kind of think about it, at least in the United States. At least I don't know how it is in other countries, but at least in the United States, most municipalities. So if we talk about cities, and our federal government kind of does the same thing, but it's really easy to see in city level. There's a mayor and a city council that are elected, and they actually delegate all these things to employees that are full time, and they don't get elected. They're full time employees of the city,
Mhm.
comptrollers and city managers and stuff like that, who then kind of run and execute the day-to-day stuff. I'm almost kind of thinking of a way that we could do something like that in terms of, there's the Ooster Council or the Mud Council that are, people who are elected and they run those. But then, yeah, they control, like you said, the if you think about it in terms of OpenClaw, the soul.md of these specific agents that run the day-to-day operations of those factions governments, right? Or the day-to-day actions of those marketplace governments. So,
That would be interesting. So they could set the directives, like they'd be able to send the prompts to the NPC,
right,
basically.
right, exactly. And anybody who's been really started diving into OpenClaw, and I'm not one of those people that have fully dived into it yet. But yeah, this whole idea of this, like, here's your directive, here's your soul, here's your purpose, here's your intent as an AI agent, right? And here are the tools and the skills given to you, um, right? And and yeah, making those something that the community could be involved in changing, and understanding, right? Um, ultimately, we've been having a lot of conversations internally about this same thing, about how do we make, how do y- y- how do we allow Star Atlas to be fun and fair to the people who don't invest as much time, but also make it more profitable for people who invest more time, right? And poker is a great example of that. If people just play poker casually when they're, at the casino or with their friends and they're having a couple drinks, they're not going to do as well as somebody who dives into poker and understands and really play and plays a ton, right? And so, like, what I'm kind of getting at with that is that if, like, we have these agents and their soul documents, um have these soul documents playing, right, that people could study those and analyze and find their weakness and now counterattack them. So um just becomes a lot of gameplay. So
Yeah, this
it just opens a lot more, in my opinion.
yeah, this is surely interesting. One thing that I was also thinking about is the loot system of Star Atlas and random events being governed by AI. Like one of the, and here I'll give you an example from the lore point of view. For the people who are more familiar with the Stratos lore, we have the cosmic currents, which is pretty much the way that Iris influences the galaxy. Uh, Iris has different aspects, and each one of those aspects exerts a different type of influence in Galia Expanse. For example, there is one of the aspects of Iris that's called Iris Beast. And when this aspect is reigning in the galaxy, uh, all the NPCs get more feral, everyone gets on edge, the universe feels more dangerous, and it opens up quests that only happen during those periods where Iris is under this specific aspect. Do you see something like this as something easy to implement in the future, Jim? How do you see this happening game as us having an agent just to coordinate different loot opportunities, quests, windows, uh, limited time events? Is this something that's
I mean,
easy?
this is yeah, I mean, to answer your question, this is, like, to me, like, the perfect use case for AI and AI generative content in the terms of what we're saying now. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It would be like, from just a high level as a game developer, I'd be like, okay, build this, say there's these 12 aspects of Iris, and, every certain amount of time, the system basically rolls a dice to see how much of each aspect is weighted, right? And then basically that weight comes out and say it's the feral mode, the right is the now the most weighted, right? And now an AI agent gets kind of alerted to that, and it goes and it basically starts subbing out the soul document of all the NPCs with a version that's more hostile, that's more aggressive, right?
Mhm.
Um, and now that propagates that change throughout the entire galaxy, and now and at the same time now, there another AI agent or whatever picks up on that, alerts that to the system. Oh, it looks like the cosmic, currents have changed. We need to do and those are the kind of things that previously you would have to have us as a game development company would have to have a team of people that were would operate that, would do the live ops of all of that, right? And that becomes expensive, and so it becomes harder to do. Now, if we could build that into an AI agentic system that every 12 hours or every 24 hours or whatever decides to kind of roll these dice and then subtly alter the nature of the NPC world, that's something we could build now and build it in a more interesting way. And then again, to me, that just provides more entertainment value. It's not, I think people who have been playing Sage based for the last year and a half are going to understand that the same gameplay mechanic just eventually becomes boring, right? You need you need change, and subtle change, not necessarily entire, rule sweeping change, but hey, here's a subtle change. Now all of a sudden the world is there's more combat and things are more this is happening. Oh shoot, I probably need to go get some more uh fighter ships to protect my mining because now the Tufa and the Jarvis are going to be more aggressive, and right. So there's just it's all kinds of cool gameplay that we could expose with that. So um
Y-
that's
Yeah,
my
this
thoughts.
is
So
no, no, that's really interesting, and yeah, I didn't think of the logistics of this, and you actually made it sound pretty easy. Actually, this sounds cool. Maybe you can try something like this in the next chapter of Holocene.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, one of the next things I think Xcode has talked about it. So if I'm dropping information I shouldn't, then I apologize. But, right now we have Holosim is responding, right? So if you're mining and it creates this threat level, this deterministic threat level algorithm, and it will spawn NPCs to go make your mining world a little bit more difficult, right? So and that creates more engagement. Now, the next version of that is to make that smarter through the use of LLMs and through AI agents, right? And so, absolutely, if we start that from the beginning of thinking of, hey, there's a kind of an overall iris, and that iris kind of creates personality flows, and then we could start to create these LLMs again with these soul personality documents and what their intent are. It's just something, yeah, that this kind of environment allows for much. The world that we live in now allows for this, with it being as production cost heavy as it used to be.
Jim, you know what I just realized?
What?
We totally forgot the updates on C4 and Zinc.
Yeah, that's all right. You were so excited to get right into this, man. Just
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
right.
But I think we should do a pause here. Uh, but I think the community would appreciate some updates on the products that you have been working on
Yeah, yeah.
before we forget again.
Yes, 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 yes. So, to get on some of these again, as you guys know, as kind of one of the direct engineering directors here, I'll get a little detailed in what's going on. But from a zinc perspective, um, this is kind of there's been this minor bug that again, I'm going to get a little bit into the weeds here, and I apologize, but every once in a while, randomly, stage transactions coming to the since StarCraft version 3 is so much faster. It's like just ridiculous how quick it is. Every once in a while, the Zinc API would basically segfault and crash and start throwing 503 errors. Just briefly, it would happen, and it would happen randomly, and then it would stop for a long time, and then it would do it randomly. And we just happened, Jerry, who's an awesome member of the Star Atlas team, just happened to be kind of on when that happened and see it, and dove into it, and used AI to find the root cause of that, and put a fix together. Um, that fix kind of was intermingling with the changes we were doing to get the Sage nightly going, and the bunch of there's bugs on the dashboard when you're in the wallet linking phase and you switch your wallet. There's a handful of bugs that are being fixed in that. Those have all been mingled together and are now, I'm like literally going to go test them in staging after the C4, and we're going to push that to production. So to production today in Zinc, and I'll put a announcement that will go out to the community, is that Sage is going to get the XP is going to come nightly. You will still get Sage events coming in, but they'll actually won't get the XP to that until 1 a.m. UTC time. We fixed that error that we saw where, again, randomly, probably twice a week or so, that the Zinc API would crash, and it would restart, but it would crash and not get some Sage events. We fixed that. And then there's a handful of linking bugs, that wallet linking bug that are going to go out today as well. I'm also in the final testing stages of allowing players So just like, and I've talked about this last week, but in Zinc, when you when you link Epic's games, you click Epic link game, and you go through and you can link your Epic game account. We're doing that same thing with Sage player profiles. There's going to be a button, and with HoloSim, but you can literally click a button. You can switch your wallet to whatever wallet has your player profiles. You can select your player profiles, your Sage player profiles, and then you can link them and then reswitch back to your regular wallet. So then Sage XP will come correctly for all your different wallets. So that is in the final stages. I had to work on these other two issues, so that'll go out. So that's the Zinc updates. I don't know if there's anybody that wants to ask any questions. Again, sorry if this is like super technical weeds for those who don't really care as
Anyone
much.
anyone has any questions about zinc?
When-
When moon again?
I hope, man. I hope. Are we in 2026? Is that what year we are right now? So yeah, I do think that Zinc is 2026. Which is a good segue to C4. So C4 has been actually put wins A for Open Cloud. Never. No, just kidding. Um, but you could, I guess, you could write one to go and do your daily check-in if you wanted to. You could get your open claw going and so uh, so the next thing, yeah, open claw C4 skill. That's a perfect. I've been thinking about working on that, but anyways, back to where we're at with C4. Um, it is been put onto the Zinc testnet, and there is an internal link that has been shared with the team, and the team is playing C4 internally on the Zinc testnet. And so um, it is moving, it is progressing. So now that it's kind of in the hands of the team, we're going to be doing more polishing and more bug fixing. And that is kind of the state of the C4 world. I know the last big it is a lot of C's. Yes, I know the last big piece of that was the crafting recipes. There was some items that we had to work out in the crafting recipe. I know there's also going to be some improvements to the combat equation. Right now, the combat equation is somewhat simple. And I know that Danny wants to add a bunch of other stuff like missiles and stealth and dodge and kind of a bunch of that cool stuff. So both of them are progressing, and that's kind of the weekly update uh, on C4 and Zinc.
Yeah, it's I have an update of from my side as well regarding C4. Then he asked me to make everything in C4 lore consistent. So everything that you guys will see in the actual C4 will be an expression of the actual Star Atlas lore universe. It's as I'm saying the chat here, they are making me write the names of hundreds and hundreds of planets, if not thousands. But yeah, it's going to be it's going to be interesting. Really looking forward to C4, guys. It's really close now. Super fun. All right, Jim. I think we covered a lot of things. People are asking about Holocene. People are asking.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't have all the definitive answers on HoloSim, but I do think that it is going to be slightly delayed in its launch. They're they created a new basically a new Zinc environment for HoloSim. It's been deployed there. It's there was some issues that they're working through on that. Um, Oh, so Xcode did confirm it. Okay, perfect. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So it will be delayed. I don't think it's going to be delayed enormously. And yeah, it's going to allow for some polish, some bug fixes. I know that there's a really cool new combat UI that got put in there, and there's some work around that too. So uh so yeah, the HoloSim will be delayed a little bit, but I think it will be fundamentally more polished. And one of the big things again, where I keep talking about, because so many people have invested in Star Atlas, we really want again, to kind of use this poker analogy, right? The when poker has these big booms, it's because something gets new players interested. Chris Moneymaker wins, from a $250 ticket, he wins $3 million, right? He gets new players interested in, right? And so we want to get new players really interested in Star Atlas, and we want them to have a great for experience in Holosim, so that they're like, wow, yes, this is super cool. This is a lot of fun. Look at this engaging community. Look at this, everything that I want to be involved in, and then from there, help them be a bigger part of the Star Atlas economy through C4 or through things that we might do in Holosim that have economic impact, right? And so I do think that pushing it back is a little unfortunate, but I do think it will allow, especially if as new players come in and play Holosim, they'll get a they'll get a better first time experience. So
It's going to be insane. The UI, uh, the combat UI update that Jim just talked about is going to blow everyone's mind. I
it's so
think
fun.
I think people will start crying when they watch it happening live in their screens. It's going to be super fun.
It will be super fun. I don't have any, and the one question, I don't have any canon or anything I say about economic impact, but I do think there's going to be some really cool things I think in the future around Holosim and the seasons and the chapters. Um, that will allow Holosim to have some measurable, maybe not huge, but measurable impact in terms of economics for a player, right? There's things that we've been talking through, and I don't have any of them specifics, but I do think there's a certain point in the future. I mean, besides just funding the software development process, right? I mean,
Mhm.
if we could get, we can get, 5,000 people to buy a battle pass for each season, or do a Zinc subscription, which includes your Holocene battle pass, by the way. Um, and then play Holosim and do all the achievements. Like, so the way that you're going to earn ZXP in Holosim right now is it's going to be based on achievements, right? So when you do these achievements, and these achievements are based on gameplay in Holosim, like doing these specific gameplay, you earn these achievement. Those achievements go to ZXP. You then, obviously, the ZXP will have an airdrop. The airdrop is going to have, of Zinc tokens, but also an air. If you're a subscriber, you'll get C4 assets, right? You get R4, you get ship components. There's all kinds of stuff that we're giving away as kind of this rewards program. So that's kind of the one way it has economic impact now. And ultimately, like I said, if people can afford, if they're willing to put $10 a month as an investment into the Star Atlas as a development team, we can continue to build this uh, and build this in a way that gives you guys just an enormous amount of entertainment value in the end. So
That's awesome. People are people are saying the chat, talking about the achievements. People are asking about the how long the delay. Tandian, it shouldn't be long, my friend. Shouldn't be long.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
not very long.
yeah. It's literally just polishing and fixing some last minute stuff, so everyone has a very good first impression of Holocene.
Right.
Guys, any last questions? Any last comments? How long is the chapter? Uh, I don't know, Sasquatch. I mean, I was watching the. If you just listen to the audio, just if you get all the conversations of every quest, it gives us 2.5 hours straight of dialogues. But for content, I think John is aiming for 5 weeks.
Right.
Neo is asking when PTR, Jim. What can you say about this?
Yeah, when PTR, I don't know.
We need
I don't have a
we need
date yet.
we need
So
we need to finish testing. We need to finish
yeah,
testing, right?
yeah, we need to finish testing, and again, the development team, I mean, Gareth and Yves and Jerry, and Kelvin and Joy, and there's others on the development team. I'm probably not, the Sam, others. They're all working very, very, very diligently and pretty awesome. Um, and like I said, we want to test it internally. I mean, obviously, you're seeing feedback from Danny already about, hey, we need to name all these things, and there's just there's so much in C4. Um, there's just it's a massive upgrade to this game, to the Sage game. So, but I don't think we're talking in terms of quarters anymore. I think the PTR is more in matter of weeks than it is in terms of months. But I don't have that nailed down. So
Eh, let's
yeah.
go, guys. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, we're
Awesome.
like I said, we're playing it internally. You're playing it, you know what I mean? So, and we're think about where we were a year ago. We're not like, some blockchain programs and a really cool new blockchain foundation for writing blockchain programs, but no playable anything. Now we've got fully playable systems from, and my favorite quote, soup to nuts, right? So,
As a blockchain and a dream are becoming a reality now.
right. Yeah, exactly.
And with this remark, I think we can close today's brew. Thank you, guys. People are asking if we are going to change the name or we are going to release the game and call it C4.
No, I think it's still. I think we've actually had some really just interesting discussions internally about continuing to call this thing Sage, and then do these C4 as kind of the that's been the name internally. We might call it like when C4 based came out. I remember it was Sage Labs at first because the Sage started as a way for us to test all the gameplay systems that were on chain, right? Um, and then based came out as this kind of focus on collaboration and star bases and managing the kind of the empire. And now the C4, I probably will launch with the name Sage C4, but Danny or somebody, Wagner may come up with a cooler name for it. But I think we're always going to kind of have this Saged, and then kind of like almost like Holosim has chapters. It's like Sage and then this version of what Sage is. And um when people say what's next for C4, I don't know. I mean, that's it would be great to have one of these with talking with Danny. If since I am a gambling man, and I'll make a bet, I think we're going to see a lot of holosim like features get into C4. I think we're going to see quests and achievements and storylines and NPC, player versus environment, uh that kind of stuff. I think is going to be the next version of Sage, after the C4 systems are in place. So
Awesome. Awesome. I think this is a good point to close this brew before we give away more alpha.
right.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. It is a
Yeah,
pleasure to be here with you all. We are in the last stretch towards the release of Holocene. PTR is also coming. So get ready, start your engines because it's going to be an intense season for Star Atlas. Thank you, everyone.
absolutely. Thank
Have
you,
a nice
everybody.
day. Love you
Thanks.
guys. Bye bye.